Alright, what's up guys? John from Dragonfly Computers here. So today I'm going to talk about what my favorite desktop for 2018 is. And I've got it right here. It is the HP Elitedesk 800 G3 Mini. Now, what's great about this computer? First of all, the size. As you can see, it's about the size of a book. It's amazing what they've gotten these things down to. So with its small size also comes small power consumption. This is a machine that only uses about 35 watts of power to get through the day. You can see it comes with a laptop style power supply and as such uses basically what a tablet would use probably for power, or a very, very small underpowered laptop. So great feature right there. Second feature, you can power triple monitors with this thing. Now I got to be careful with the zoom. When I put things too close to the camera, it has trouble focusing. But what you can see here is we've got two integrated DisplayPort intakes right here, and then there's actually a third. This one came with a third as part of a, that's actually an expansion. We'll get into that later. Then you've got four USB ports here and integrated Ethernet and Wi-Fi, so it's another plus that we're going to get to in a second. No VGA ports on this bad boy, so you can forget about your analog, old school connectors. This thing is strictly for the high tech. Now, with the DisplayPort outs on this machine, one of the things to take into consideration is that not a lot of monitors have DisplayPort ins. Most of them have HDMI, VGA, or DVI, or a combination thereof. There's not that many that actually come natively with DisplayPort in. So there's two fixes for that. One is make sure before you order one of these that you also order, if your monitor only has HDMI inputs or DVI inputs, make sure you order DisplayPort to DVI adapter cables or DisplayPort to HDMI adapter cables. They're cheap. They're like $8 on Amazon. So just get however many monitors you have, get the proper adapter cables. If you're going to be replacing monitors and a computer at the same time, HP makes companion monitors that go with these machines. They're like $140 each. They're just your average 24-inch monitor screen, but nice resolution, nice responsiveness. It's great for business, and they have the integrated DisplayPort in there. So usually when I order these machines for clients, I grab a couple of those monitors to go along with it. But it's really nice to have such a small machine with no graphics card, just the Intel integrated graphics card that's part of the chip, be able to power 3 monitors with DisplayPort on the back. Now, just a pro tip here, if you have multiple monitors and you notice that when you go away and the screen goes to sleep and you have stuff up on your 2 or your 3 monitors and you come back and all that stuff is sitting on one monitor because your screens went to sleep, it's because you're using HDMI cables. HDMI cables are fine for your cable box or a Roku or Apple TV or whatever to connect to a TV. Computers don't like HDMI cables. I'm not exactly sure the reason. I could look it up. I've read that it has something to do with the fact that it's not a secure connection. There's nothing that secures the cable. If you notice with VGA, DVA, DVI, and DisplayPort cables, they all lock in when they connect. They have a lock with the DisplayPort. You have to kind of press it in and yank it out. And with VGA and DVI, there's actually screws on the side. HDMI is an insecure connection. You can just yank it out. I don't know. I don't think computers like it very much. So what happens is when the monitors go to sleep, all your stuff ends up on one monitor, and that can be super annoying, especially if you have 3 screens like me. So you've got to replace those HDMI cables with something else. That's what I like about DisplayPort cables, is that it gets rid of that problem. So that's it's just something to be aware of with this machine. Make sure you get either a DisplayPort capable monitor or get the proper adapter cables to run with this thing. So another thing I like about this machine, and we covered this in the laptop section, but it has an integrated TPM, Trusted Platform Module. And what that means, again, I'll give you the short version, it means you can encrypt it very easily. You get this machine, you get it with Windows 10 Pro, and you use the integrated BitLocker to encrypt the machine. Very easy, very quick, especially with the hard drive in this machine. It can be done in 20 minutes, then you're good to go, and you've got an encrypted machine. Why is that important with a machine like this? This is easy to steal. Now, the old days when you had a big, huge desktop, it was hard to, I mean, you can go, if a company had 20 of these things, you could just walk right in, you could break in and you could put 20 of these things in a backpack and walk out and have thousands of dollars worth of hardware that you could sell. And so because of that, you want it encrypted, so if somebody ever walks away with it, they can't get the data that was on the hard drive. Secondly, for anti-theft protection, because it is an issue with these things, you have your laptop lock right here, where you can stick a lock through it and lock it to a desk. So just another thing, if you don't need to use it, you can push it in. But with this thing, I would say if you're even the slightest bit worried about theft, definitely lock it up to your desk and also encrypt the hard drive. You should do that anyway. It's a good business practice. So another great thing about these computers here is that they're rolling out of the factory with NvMe hard drives. And then if you've been watching my videos, you know I really harp on how much I love NvMe hard drives, because they get past the SATA interface, they use the PCI Express interface, and it's much, much faster than the SATA interface, and it allows, even amongst the solid state community, you're going to have a much faster performing hard drive on the NvMe interface, on the PCI Express interface, than on the SATA interface. So great feature. These things come out of the factory with NvMe hard drives, and that's awesome. Another thing that's great about these machines, and I talked about it again with the laptop review, my favorite laptop of 2018, was the integration. It comes with a Wi-Fi radio integrated into the motherboard, and it also, like we talked about a minute ago, has the integrated Ethernet connection. So that's good for a lot of reasons. One is that in an office, you're generally always going to have a better connection with Ethernet. Wi-Fi, it's buggy. It can be inconsistent. I mean, unless you have a professional, awesome Wi-Fi setup in your office, a lot of times it can be spotty, and that's expensive to do, by the way. A lot of times it can be spotty, you can have issues with it, and you're just better off using the Ethernet connection. But another reason is the redundancy. If you have one of these connections happen to fail on you, you're not necessarily out of action. You know, if you are using the Ethernet connection and for some reason that goes to hell on you, you still have your Wi-Fi connection and you can still get through the day or get through a couple of days until you can get it fixed or figure out what the problem was. So that's a great, great feature. We always want to eliminate single points of failure where we can. And then the last feature I'll get into on this that is just so awesome, it's really an IT guy's dream, but this is good for a company for this reason, is how easy this thing is to work on. There's not even any screws. Now, I've worked on computers, for 10 years, and prior to that, even when I went to school, we were working on, 20, and I hate to say it, I still encounter sometimes 15 and 20-year-old machines still running in clients' offices, which is crazy to me, but some people have really hung on to these things for a long time. So they all have different ways that you get into work on them when you get at the hard drive, and the older they are, the harder they are to work on, because the older the technology was, and these things weren't, even the work machines weren't rolling out of the factory with ease of maintenance as part of the thought process. So this machine is so awesome. There's not even any screws to deal with. You have one switch on the back. You flip the switch to unlocked, and now what you're going to do to get it apart is actually flip it over, and let's see if I can do this. Usually I do this on my lap, but so there you go. You can see just like that, all I had to do was push. You flip it over on its top, and from the bottom side you just give it a little push, and you can see it started to come apart. And now you can just take the top cover off. Hopefully this is in focus. And there you go. You got everything here to work on. Now this right here is the fan that goes over the RAM, and just like this, you can flip it up and it's going to kind of come off. I don't want to drop it, but you can see here it comes with 8 GB DDR4 RAM already installed, and you can see you have another SO DIMM slot right here. This thing I think is upgradable to 64 gigs of RAM. I don't know why you'd ever put that on a machine like this, but going to 16 isn't out of the question. So you can see how easy that is to upgrade. You can buy it with the 6 and buy the extra RAM sticks or put your favorite RAM. I would always just try to match the branding on the RAM. Sorry, let me just get this hooked up because I don't want it to fall. There we go. So you can see that's easy. It swings up and swings back down, and then there's just a couple of pins that the fan seats on here. So again, no screws or anything to work on that. So putting 16 gigs of RAM on a machine like this wouldn't be out of the question. I just make sure it's the same brand. Either get the exact same factory RAM that's in there, or pull that out and get 2 of the same stick, because you can have speed compatibility, especially with DDR4, where you get so many different speeds. So you got that. Your processor lives under here. That's the heat sink for that. You can see here, that is the expansion. That's the extra display port. And you can see that that's an expansion card that was screwed in. They don't all come with that. So if you need that third monitor, make sure you know what you're getting. You got your speaker on the front. I would obviously advise external speakers. If there's one knock on this machine that I'm not crazy about, it's that the audio out is in the front. So if you're going to use that, you can use the headphone jack to go out to a set of speakers. But the annoying thing is that you have to plug it into the front, and then you have a cable, kind of an ugly cable situation where it's coming out the front and around back. They did not put one on back. If there's one thing that I can tell HP to just figure out on this machine, it's either give me an extra audio out in the back, or just move this to the back. I don't care. If someone's wearing headphones, they can get an extra long cable and hook up to the back. I don't care. I just hate having that ugly cable. Everything else is so clean on the front. I hate having that extra cable come out. But that's really like my only knock on this machine. Now the other thing that's pretty cool, and hopefully I can show you this without the fan coming off on me again, is you have an extra, you do have a SATA hard drive bay right here, and you could put an extra, you could put an SSD in here. It would have to be a 2.5, so you'd have to do either a laptop hard drive or any standard SSD would fit in this slot, and you could add an additional hard drive to this if you needed to. Now underneath this is the NvMe hard drive. I'm not going to take it off, but you have 2 screws right here, and right here. That would be the only screws you'd have to get at. Pull this off and you get the NvMe hard drive underneath if you ever had to swap it, or clone it and swap it, or whatever you might need to do. That's basically it. And then you can see how easy it is to put it back together. There we go. Now we're back together. The lock is popped off to the side. I mean, anyone can work on this machine. You don't have to be an IT guy. Certainly not. So that's it. That's my review of the HP Elitedesk 800 G3 Mini. Awesome machine. Once again, just like with the laptop review that I did, this isn't a machine for power users. If you're doing heavy 3D architecture, CAD work, heavy video editing, sound editing, graphic design, that kind of stuff, you're going to need a more powerful machine. But for your typical, medical staff, lawyers, accountants, tradesmen, office staff, just, your typical user that's just using a couple of in-house applications and, web, email, that kind of thing, this machine is more than enough. So that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Take a look at my laptop best of 2018 laptop review. And thanks for watching, and hope you subscribe.